In this week's episode, there's a lot going on, so we're going to be moving around pretty quick, so do keep up. Well, if you've ever done this process, it's extremely tedious. Tapping or dyeing is the other one. But I think I got it right. And again, it's my granddad's tap set and my granddad's monkey wrench. What was all that about? Well, still thinking about a rear light mounting off. Yeah, the other Ford alternator bracket. I like that. Anyone else like that? I think that looks pretty cool. So there's plenty of videos online about how to relink the chain, but not a lot about how to get the right tension, because that is clearly sagging. And try as I might, I cannot get it on the next tooth round, because then it falls off at the top. So we have the trusty mole grips in place, and I'm going to try and pull it around one more link, and then of course it's too long anyway, so I'm going to have to cut some stuff off. So this exercise will have to be repeated at some point, which is tedious. And of course your favourite rounder's bat, and then moving up in the high technology, obviously the wire coat hanger, which is going to slot through there. Try and do this one-handed. Then we're going to give it a tug and see what happens. Nice new shiny Allen bolts to remount this up here, and various links, all for $10. I'm going to use the original O-ring because it's in reasonable shape, but I'm going to goop it in there with a bit of that red sauce. Don't think it's supposed to come out that end, but when I squeezed it, it's obviously formed a very good gasket at the front end, and it came out this end. I'll use that then. So I'm not going to throw that away because although obviously it's got trouble at both ends, there's plenty of good stuff in the middle there. So who knows which end it will come out of next time, but not to be disposed of. I know it doesn't look pretty, but it's holding that O-ring in place, which is part of the reason for putting it in there, and just an added extra little bit of goop. So those are all just snugged up, no real pressure on the nuts. And then I'm going to go round sequentially, or actually I'm going to start at the top and then come down here and then go down here. So it snugs down evenly. Found these really nice short red lights for my brake light idea. Unfortunately they're straight obviously, but it does seem to bend a little. Two problems. Firstly, there's only 2 wires, which means that they won't operate as a brake light, so that's a problem. And secondly, the only way to fix it is sticky, and given the bend, I'm not sure that's going to work. Guess I can try it. And of course there's a big gap, so I've got nothing to stick it to, so I might have to fill that with something. So while I think I can get this to work, having filled this in, sprayed it the gold, I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but what I could have done is mount it behind, right, and then it would just show through that gap, which would be much cleaner. I don't know if I want to undo what I've done here, which wouldn't take long, but it'd just be a bit tedious. We'll just order another one of these and see if I can make that work. I don't know, it's a bit lazy, but the alternative solution for the chain situation is to actually Google the matter and then look it up in a manual, not necessarily in that order, and then discover what that weird and wonderful tool was that came with the bike. So now we know what we're doing. Twat. First, we need to loosen off these bad boys, and that releases the grip on the cam-shaped device down there in between the sprocket and the hub. And then by rotating that, it moves the rear wheel further and nearer to the front. I think I'll give that a go just to see how much play I've got, because I've got a couple of spare links in there. I don't really want to start off at the extremity of the tensioning capability adjustment, but if I don't have to remove them, that'll be something else I don't have to do. Now we've actually got less slack and it's on the last rivet, but I think that's the amount of adjustment I've got in terms of taking the wheel backwards. So, bless you. We'll adjust it and see what happens. The other factor here is this gap here, which apparently should be 60 mil. It varies a lot according to various videos that I've watched, between 30 mil and 60 mil. So we'll measure that as well using this. Now we're as far forward as it'll go, and bearing in mind you got the link chain, that would mean taking it out to take this one out, and then your link chain would fit across, including the wolf dog hair. And the slackness is about the same, which actually was around 70 mil, so that needs a little bit of tightening. But obviously once you've put the chain together, you then tighten it accordingly on the adjustment. So now all I have to do is wait for yet another special tool to arrive so I can do that. Glad I didn't throw that tool away. It's one of those things that you look at when you get it and you think, what the hell's this for? But instead of throwing stuff like that away, I keep it just in case. And there you go. I'm just about to test out my rat's nest theory to see how much space I've got in this void that I've heat shielded, just to see if it's actually going to work. Otherwise I've got to start chopping wires, which is immensely tedious. Well, actually it does fit. So maybe we don't need to cut anything, which would be a relief. I know if I was doing it really properly, I'd rewire the whole thing, but that's an enormous task. It took us, I think, nearly 30 hours, if I remember, to rewire the Bel Air, because none of that worked. So honestly, this is a good solution for now, at least. If I want to revisit it and do it properly, in inverted commas, then I can always do that. The next question is, of course, how to cover it all up, and that'll be, I think, we'll follow the lead with that stuff, and we'll throw it in there. But what to mount it off? Because there's nothing to mount it off. There's this, which is a push fit on the radiator mount. We could possibly drill a hole in the expansion tank and seal it up and put a nut in there or something. That's an option. Or something else. Something else to think about. Side stand back in place. I really want to get rid of this electronic bullshit safety stuff, because it's just sensors to work out whether the side stand is down or up and whether the clutch is in or not. And if you can't work that out for yourself, you shouldn't probably be riding a motorbike in the first place, especially one that's capable of 170 miles an hour. Certainly wasn't what I set out to achieve, but I kind of like the grungy look, honestly, and so I'm going with that for now. I can always change it later if I want to, but I don't know whether you like it or not. I kind of like it. It's got all the colours in there that I wanted. Another happy accident. Officially ready to do some serious talking. Suddenly Allen keys are no longer that pain in the arse that they used to be. And there's that exhaust back in place now. Cleaned up a bit with its mufflers, baffles. Just doing a little bit more rerouting. Already successfully rerouted the clutch cable behind the frame rather than underneath it. And now these sensors that go to the radiator, temperature sensors, I couldn't get that one off and I didn't want to break it. So I can't remember how I got that one off. So I've actually chopped the wires, rerouted this main sub loom over the top, and I'm just going to connect these up again with a little bit of extra. And then I'm going to throw it in one of these kind of cable tidies. Not sure how that's going to map out until I put the radiator back in, so just going to leave it for now. There's a monkey in the trunk. What are you doing? Unashamedly trying to cash in on the cat video market. More special tools, and it's those archaic ones for breaking and joining a chain. So, having watched a few videos on how to do this, I found one which was using the identical kit that I've got. Didn't go quite according to plan. First he said, don't grind it off, and something came out because there it is stuck in the tool, but it didn't go through that hole like it should do, so therefore it's bent up and it's stuck on the end of the tool. So I need to get it out somehow. Tedious. So what happened is what he said wouldn't happen if you lined it all up properly, which I did. He said not to grind it down before you started in the first video, and then in the second video he said to grind it down after all. So that bit in there is actually the tool that's bent itself up. So now I've got to get that out and start again. So in the second video he suggests you use a Dremel, which is a small grinding tool, to grind that down to the face of the chain link. But seeing as I got this out, it'd be rude not to use it, and there's no point in messing about. I don't like messing about. So that's that done, and if we use the same theory as we did breaking the original chain, if I do the next one to the left, then that whole link should just lever off with a screwdriver, and Robert is your proverbial father's brother. Ended up grinding it all the way back so that it popped out. Not the recommended way to do this, but there's always another way, and I did it gently when I got to the end so that that's all still intact. Don't do this at home. So this bit, the tool's working nicely. Having put the O-rings, little rubbery doofers in there, both sides obviously, and it's just tiny little adjustments and measuring. So measure with calipers the existing links and then measure this one, because you don't want to over tighten it and squish those O-rings so that the chain isn't flexible. So you've got to get it just right. So it's just a question of cut, you know, half a turn, take it off, remeasure it, half a turn, take it off, remeasure it. And that's apparently it. That is that, and that is also that. In fact, that's a little looser, so there's not much protruding there, but apparently I'm there. So eventually I found someone who knew what they were talking about, and I think he was representative of one of the tool companies. That was really helpful, so I'm going to leave a link to his video in the comments as to how to use those chain tools, because he kind of knew what he was talking about. Anyway, so now we're going to adjust the chain itself to make sure it's the right tension. And according to MV Agusta, we're aiming for a 60mm drop between the bottom of the swing arm and the chain itself, which we've now achieved using this weird and wonderful device. Probably make one if you wanted to. And that slips in here behind the sprocket, and then you just move it back and forwards until you get the right tension. Having loosened off these bolts, and now I can tighten them up to the right torque, because I've got a torque wrench. Yay! And a manual, and some of these. By the way, Mr. Molesworth, am I doing better on filling up the ashtray? If you're watching. And on that note, I think we'll call it a day for this episode. So thanks again for watching. I hope there were some interesting bits for you. And subscribe to the channel, obviously, if you haven't already. See you soon.